It was a Saturday morning in the small Midwestern town of Maplewood, the kind of town where American flags hung proudly from front porches, and the sound of a lawnmower was as common as the smell of sizzling bacon drifting through an open kitchen window. Maplewood wasn't famous for much, no skyscrapers, no movie stars, but it had something better: neighbors who actually knew each other's names and waved from across the street without hesitation. The sun rose slowly, painting the sky a soft watercolor of peach and blue. The breeze carried the scent of freshly brewed coffee from the diner down on Main Street, a little place called Sally's Stop and Sip, where farmers, teachers, and construction workers all gathered in the same booth and argued about football like it was national security. That morning, though, the chatter had shifted. Not about the Chicago Bears or corn prices. No. Maplewood had something bigger brewing: the annual Maplewood Summer Dash, a race everyone in town looked forward to. This year's dash had an unusual twist. A man named Henry Jacobs, who'd lived in town for 59 years, decided to enter. Henry wasn't your typical runner. He wasn't lean like the track kids from the high school. He wasn't speedy like Jason Miller, the mailman who delivered letters faster than most Amazon drivers. Henry was slow, famously slow. Not because he was old, but because he moved through life like a turtle. Neighbors had called him Turtle Henry for years, not unkindly but with a mix of affection and exasperation. He'd take 20 minutes to cross Main Street when the diner was calling his name. He'd mow half his lawn on Saturday, the other half on Sunday, and declare himself efficient. He wasn't lazy, he just believed life should be savored, like a slice of apple pie at the county fair, eaten one forkful at a time. So when Henry walked into Sally's Stop and Sip that morning, plaid shirt tucked into his jeans, baseball cap tilted backward, and announced to the entire diner, "I'm entering the dash this year," the room fell silent. Forks froze halfway to mouths. Coffee cups paused mid-air. Jason the mailman chuckled into his black coffee. "Henry, buddy, the dash is a race. Fast feet, moving legs, people who train. You walk like you're on vacation." Henry didn't flinch. He just grinned, slow and wide, the way he always did. "Well," he said, "sometimes the turtle wins the race." The diner erupted in laughter. Even Linda, the schoolteacher with a sharp wit and sharper glasses, nearly spilled her tea. Voiceover, narrator tone shifts to playful inspiration, and here's where the story begins, friends. A town that thought it knew speed, effort, and competition was about to learn something different. Maplewood was about to discover that sometimes the slowest one in the crowd carries the strongest heart. That week, Maplewood transformed. Posters for the dash went up on telephone poles. High school kids jogged through neighborhoods wearing neon sneakers and earbuds, bouncing to playlists heavy on pop beats. Retired veterans sat on porches in rocking chairs, trading bets over who'd win. Jason the mailman was the favorite, though young Kelly from the track team was also in the running. Meanwhile, Henry didn't train. Not in the traditional sense. He still walked the neighborhood at the same pace he always had, steady, deliberate, the kind of walk that gave him time to greet every dog on every porch and compliment every garden. He'd stop by Mr. Thompson's house to talk about the tomato plants. He'd wave at kids spraying each other with garden hoses. He'd chat with Mary, who ran the corner antique shop, about how vinyl records sounded warmer than digital. Neighbors whispered, "He's gonna get embarrassed out there. Poor Henry, maybe he's having a midlife crisis, late. Bless his heart, he doesn't stand a chance." But Henry didn't seem bothered. He wore his slowness like a badge of honor. You see, Henry wasn't chasing the win. Not in the way Maplewood understood it. While everyone else thought speed meant victory, Henry believed victory meant something else entirely. Showing up, standing steady, and proving that life isn't measured in how fast you move, but in how much joy you bring to the moving. On Friday evening, Maplewood buzzed like it was hosting the Olympics. Families grilled burgers in backyards, smoke drifting up under strings of patio lights. Pickup trucks lined the streets near the school gym, where participants checked in for the race. Jason the mailman wore running shorts and a neon tank top. He stretched dramatically in the parking lot, grinning at anyone who passed. Kelly, the teenage track star, tied her hair into a ponytail so tight it looked like it might snap. Henry showed up late, of course. Not because he forgot, but because he'd stopped to feed the ducks at Miller's Pond. He arrived wearing what looked suspiciously like his everyday jeans, a t-shirt that read, "Life's not a sprint," and sneakers that had seen more barbecues than treadmills. The crowd howled with laughter. Jason patted him on the back. "Henry, those shoes have less grip than the floor at Sally's after chilly night." Henry smiled, as calm as a pond at dawn. "Comfort, Jason. That's the real secret. You ever notice how the people who look most unprepared sometimes carry the strongest confidence?" That was Henry. A man in jeans, with no playlist, no stopwatch, no strategy except to keep moving. While everyone else was so worried about winning, they forgot to enjoy the fact they were even in the race. The morning of the dash arrived bright and hot. Maplewood High's football field filled with energy. Kids selling lemonade, parents with folding chairs, the smell of sunscreen mixed with hot dogs sizzling on portable grills. The American anthem played from the loudspeakers as flags flapped proudly in the sticky breeze. Runners lined up at the starting line, bouncing on their toes like coiled springs. Jason's mailbag wasn't on his shoulder this time, but you could still tell he had the same competitive fire. Kelly stood tall, her track spikes glinting. A dozen other runners joined, some serious, some there just for fun. And then, there was Henry. Standing calmly, hands resting loosely at his sides, baseball cap shading his eyes. He looked less like a competitor and more like a guy waiting for a fishing buddy to show up. The crowd chuckled. Some shook their heads. Others cheered him on anyway. "Go, Henry. Show 'em." Ladies and gentlemen, if you've ever been counted out, doubted, or laughed at, this moment right here is for you. Because nothing stirs a crowd more than the man who's already ridden off, yet still stands at the line with a smile. The starter pistol fired. The crowd roared. And Maplewood's summer dash was on. Jason and Kelly bolted like rockets. The rest of the runners surged forward, sneakers slapping the pavement, sweat already flying. And Henry? Well, Henry took his first step. Then another. Calm. Steady. 1, 2. Like he had all the time in the world. The race was on, but this wasn't just a race of legs. This was about patience, humor, heart, and a turtle named Henry Jacobs who had no intention of moving fast but every intention of finishing strong. And that, friends, is where we leave our first scene. A town buzzing with bets and laughter, a man in worn sneakers carrying the spirit of a turtle, and a road that stretched ahead like the question mark at the end of a sentence. What happens next? Well, let's just say the road had a few lessons waiting for Maplewood and for Henry. When the starting pistol cracked through the Maplewood morning air, the fast ones bolted like summer fireworks, bright, noisy, and dazzling. Jason the mailman, lean as his postal bag straps, sprinted with his usual confidence. Kelly, the teenage track star, launched forward like she had rockets strapped to her sneakers. The crowd cheered, whistles cut through the air, and neighbors hollered names as though this was the Boston Marathon. And then, there was Henry. Henry, with his weathered sneakers and relaxed pace, strolled forward like he was on his way to borrow sugar from a neighbor. His jeans swished with every step, his baseball cap bobbing gently. To most folks watching, it looked less like a race and more like Henry had mistaken the summer dash for a Sunday stroll. Kids on the sidelines laughed. Someone shouted, "Pick it up, Henry." But Henry? He simply raised a hand in a slow motion wave and kept moving. Jason and Kelly quickly pulled ahead. Their strides were sharp, slicing the air like blades. Behind them, the other runners jostled for space, each trying to keep up with the lead pack. Maplewood had never seen energy like this, fast feet pounding the pavement, sweat glistening under the morning sun. But the further the race went, the more Maplewood noticed something unusual. Henry wasn't stopping. He wasn't out of breath. He wasn't even sweating. Sure, he was slow, but his rhythm never wavered. One step, then another. A metronome of motion. Here's the thing about moving slow. People mistake it for weakness. But what they forget is that slow has its own superpower. Slow is steady. Slow doesn't panic. Slow doesn't burn out in the first mile. And sometimes, slow is the only pace that gets you all the way to the finish line. By the second mile, Jason was still leading, but his face was turning redder than a 4th of July firecracker. He'd gone out fast, maybe too fast. Kelly wasn't far behind, her ponytail whipping like a flag in the wind, but even she was starting to feel the weight of the summer heat. Meanwhile, Henry had become the crowd's entertainment. Kids jogged alongside him for a block, giggling at his turtle pace. A man selling hot dogs joked that Henry might stop for mustard. Even the local news reporter filming the race chuckled into her microphone, and here's Henry Jacobs, folks, redefining the meaning of a fun run. But Henry never looked embarrassed. Not once. He kept smiling, kept greeting folks along the way. When a little boy waved an American flag from the sidewalk, Henry tipped his cap. When a woman handed out water cups, he stopped, thanked her sincerely, and sipped like he had all afternoon. Now, if you've ever been in a race, literal or metaphorical, you know the crowd loves a spectacle. But here's the kicker: while they're busy laughing at the turtle, the rabbit's already burning out. Life has a funny way of turning steady feet into secret weapons. Around mile 3, Jason slowed dramatically. His arms dropped heavy, his sneakers slapped the ground instead of springing from it. He'd spent all his energy in the first half. Kelly passed him, the crowd roaring for her young determination. Jason cursed under his breath, grabbing water like it was gold. And Henry? He caught up. Imagine the crowd's faces. Jason, the mailman built for speed, panting like an overheated engine, while Henry, in jeans and that stubborn t-shirt, walked right past him. Not quickly, not arrogantly, just steadily. Jason tried to laugh it off. Enjoy it while it lasts, Henry, he puffed, but Henry simply smiled. I am enjoying it, Jason. Every step. And there it was, folks, the moment when a turtle reminded a rabbit that life isn't about how far ahead you start, but whether you can keep moving when the road gets hot. By now, the race wasn't just a competition, it was a town event. Neighbors rolled out coolers, popped open cans of soda, and turned front lawns into cheering sections. Porch flags fluttered, lawn sprinklers arched over kids in swimsuits, and dogs barked like they wanted to join. The dash had become a block party. And in the middle of it all, Henry moved like clockwork. Slow, steady, cheerful, the kind of presence that reminded you of old American values: patience, grit, kindness. Linda, the schoolteacher, shouted from her lawn chair, "Go, Henry. Show these young bucks what perseverance looks like." Even the doubters began to cheer. Not because Henry was winning, he wasn't, but because Henry represented something bigger. Something Maplewood realized it had been missing. Joy in the journey. The last stretch of the dash wound down Main Street, past Sally's diner, where half the town had spilled out to cheer. Kelly still led, her strides shorter now, her face strained. The crowd willed her forward, but fatigue clung to her like humidity. Henry trailed a good distance behind, but unlike Kelly, his pace never faltered. His jeans stuck to his legs with sweat now, his shirt darkened in patches, but his grin? Still wide, still steady. You know the saying, it's not over till it's over. Well, in Maplewood that day, it was about to be proven truer than ever. Because while the young sprinter fought exhaustion, the turtle kept gliding forward, one small step at a time. As Kelly approached the final stretch, her legs buckled. She stumbled once, twice, then slowed to a walk. The roar of the crowd turned to gasps. She was so close, yet she couldn't push anymore. Henry came into view, still steady, still smiling. The crowd's laughter transformed into chants. Henry, Henry, Henry. And then, the impossible happened. Step by step, Henry closed the gap. He didn't sprint, he couldn't. But he didn't stop, either. Kelly tried to rally, but her body gave out. Jason was nowhere close. And Henry, the turtle of Maplewood, walked calmly across the finish line. The crowd exploded. Kids jumped. Parents clapped. Even Jason, leaning against a lamppost, laughed and shook his head. Henry raised both hands in the air, not like a champion, but like a man grateful for the walk. Voiceover, big finish, funny plus motivational blend. And there it was, friends, the turtle, in denim jeans and a baseball cap, proving once again that sometimes the world's biggest victories don't come from being the fastest, the strongest, or the flashiest. They come from showing up, staying steady, and smiling every step of the way. Later, the whole town gathered back at Sally's diner. Burgers sizzled on the grill, root beer fizzed in frosted mugs, and neighbors couldn't stop retelling the story. Jason admitted with a grin, "Guess I'll deliver the mail a little slower from now on." Kelly, humbled but smiling, clinked her soda glass against Henry's. "You earned it, Henry. You really did." Henry just shrugged, eyes twinkling. "I didn't win because I was faster. I won because I didn't stop." And Maplewood? Well, Maplewood carried that lesson home. Parents told their kids the story before bedtime. The local paper ran the headline, "Turtle takes the dash, slow and steady wins Maplewood's heart." So here's the takeaway: wherever you are in America, whether you're chasing deadlines, chasing dreams, or just trying to keep up with life's busy pace, sometimes the bravest thing you can do is to move at your own speed. Because when the world sprints and stumbles, it's the turtle who keeps walking that reaches the finish line. The night in Maplewood ended with fireworks, laughter, and the sound of neighbors swapping stories under porch lights. Henry walked home slowly, as he always did, taking the long way around. The air was cooler now, crickets chirped, and the stars looked brighter. The turtle had won the race. Not just on the road, but in the hearts of everyone who'd ever been told they were too slow, too late, or too unlikely. And that, my friends, is the story of Henry Jacobs, the man who taught an entire town that victory isn't about the clock. It's about courage, humor, patience, and the simple act of never giving up.
Like and subscribe if you want daily dose of happiness and motivation.